Right. So welcome everybody. Those of you that are already joining in, thank you for showing up on time. Of course, today is our technically second lesson for Conchas y Café, the workshop series that is. And today is an actual lesson in storytelling. So Abraham will be leading the session. We'll give ourselves a little moment here to let more people join in. Couldn't download the handout. Let me share it now.
What version is this?
This is Rod Stewart's version.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I am right now uploading the handout for tonight's session. You'll be able to download it off of the Zoom comments section there, the chat section. Excellent. It's a PDF. And of course, for anybody joining in on the live stream watching there, the handout is available to the people who log in through Google Classroom. So it does require fully enrolling in that way. And if you're watching on the live stream, of course, you can use your comments section to add questions. We'll try to give ourselves enough space here through Instagram Live and the live streams on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook to answer questions if necessary. But of course, for all of you joining in here through Zoom, y'all get the benefit of jumping in and asking questions as you need. And the Instagram Live folks, again, you can always visit the website, dstlarts.org/Conchas y Café, and we'll eat and roll as Abraham jams out. There you go, Abraham. We'll let the song finish before we get the party started. All right. Since we do have tonight's session as a creative writing session, we are recording. So, if you say miss a portion of tonight's session, you're more than welcome to check out our YouTube channel later, probably tomorrow when the recording goes live. For those of you joining in now, thank you for joining in. And as I said, it's a creative writing lesson tonight. So we're actually going to be teaching. Abraham provided us with the handout that is up in the comments section or the chat section of our Zoom here. If you need access to it, let me know. I can re-upload it one more time. And again, for anybody joining in on the Instagram Live or any of the other live streams, just simply go to our website and fully enroll in the class. And that'll give you access to handouts, recordings, and also the workshopping portion of this series. But today, Abraham is, like I said, going to be leading the session. So I'll be managing more of the questions today, along with Angie, who's also in the house. And Abraham, did you want to present your screen, or would you like me to present mine?
I'll use my screen. So,
all right, sounds
okay,
good.
let's do this. Let's see how this works out. Ba, 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 boom. So let's begin with this journey. So everybody can see, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So let's start with the quote of today. Never rail at the storms, the furious winds, the beating frost and snows. Bright days and dark days are both expressions of the great mystery. This quote comes from Chief Standing Bear of the Ponca tribe, 1868 to 1937. En español, nunca critiques a las tormentas, a los vientos furiosos, a las heladas y a las nieves, los días brillantes y los días oscuros. Ambos son expresiones del gran misterio. Esta cita viene del jefe Standing Bear de la tribu Ponca. Nació en 1868 y falleció el 19 del 37, 1937. So, what do you guys think about this quote? ¿Qué piensan acerca de esta cita?
Well, Brother Abraham, good evening to everybody. To
How
me,
we
it's
doing?
very simple because I wrote a poem about this that we put in one of our books. And it was about the heavy storm and how it was blowing the people's hats off and the frost, because the poem was up. Well, I wrote a part story too on it. It was up in Maine. But anyway, long story short, it's like the wind. We fuss about the wind, but we don't, it's a mystery. We can't see it, but we can only feel. I think I put in there the poem, and it's an old cliche of where it's been. You don't know where it's going. You don't even know where it's coming from, really. You only know where it's been, and you can't see it, but you can feel it. So that's the mystery of it.
Nice.
I like it, but it's simple for me, to me. I mean, I do say it's clear, not simple.
Okay.
It's clear.
Thank you, Luis. Yeah, definitely. You have Gia. You raise your hand.
Yes, hello. I feel like one level of it is that we're always wanting to be in the motions of happy and joy and all the good ones. And we get kind of like mad and say we have a bad day or we're angry. We don't accept the darker emotions like anger and anxiety. So I kind of feel like this is giving permission to like sit with those emotions too, because the dark days, you can learn and grow just as much from them as the bright days, as opposed to trying to fight against those emotions.
Excellent. Yeah, you're right. Who else has an opinion on this one? ¿Alguien más quiere hablar sobre esta cita? Okay. Well, to me, it definitely speaks of the human experience, which we should always remember, like Gia said, that there's always good and bad. And for us, it's better if we don't focus in neither of those. We have to take them equally, right? We have to not get stuck into like, this is horrible. You have to continue and keep on living. Otherwise, you're never gonna move on.
You know, that's true what she said and what you reiterated, because where it says never rail at the storms, you know, my sister used to sing a song, all my good days outweigh my bad days, so I won't complain. So you're fussing about it, you know, and worrying about it and over concerned about it, it's going to stress you out. But you have to learn how you say, flow with the wind. Yeah, so that was good. Thank you for opening that part up for me. I was looking at the mystery part. That was good. Yeah.
Definitely. So we'll continue. Just keep this in your minds. And for the next part, we're gonna kind of do a little experiment. We're gonna put you into the thinking part, imagining, right? So again, we're gonna do this in many parts. So try to keep up, because we're gonna be switching from English to Spanish. So it's gonna take some time sometimes for me to continue. Okay. So close your eyes and imagine. It is the Christmas week of 1878 in the cold and barren plains of Oklahoma. The chilling winter winds are blowing, but not exclusively outside. For the canvas makeshift shelter the government hath provided is now old and riddled with holes. It has been a year since you and everyone you knew moved to this alien land on an unforgiving journey in which not all made it through. Inside this tent, your 16-year-old boy named Pershil, your only son, the one you have been grooming up to become the next leader of the tribe. You even sent him to learn the customs and ways of the new people. Your only son is dying of malaria. But before he takes his last breath, he makes you promise that you will take his remains to the secret land where his and your ancestors rest, to the white chalk bluffs. So this is a little more story behind this. As the Ponca had lived by the Niobrara, which means running water, since the 1830s. Their graves were on the bluffs above the villages, and Indians believe that the ancestors lived in those locations. The attachment of the Native Americans was to a place. It was their spiritual homeland. And so before we continue with the story, I'm gonna go through it in Spanish. So en español, por favor, cierren los ojos, imaginen. Es la semana de Navidad de 1878 en las frías y áridas llanuras de Oklahoma. Los helados vientos invernales soplan, pero no exclusivamente afuera, ya que el refugio improvisado de lona que el gobierno había proporcionado ahora es viejo y está lleno de agujeros. Ha pasado un año desde que tú y todos tus conocidos se mudaron a esta tierra extraña en un viaje implacable en el que no todos lograron salir adelante. Dentro de esta carpa, tu hijo de 16 años, llamado Escudo de Oso, tu único hijo, al que has estado preparando para convertirse en el próximo líder de la tribu. Incluso lo envías a aprender las formas y las costumbres de la nueva gente. Tu único hijo está muriendo de malaria. Pero antes de tomar su último aliento, te hace prometer que llevarás sus restos a las tierras secretas donde descansan sus antepasados y los tuyos, a los acantilados de tiza blanca. Y para poner un poco más de contexto, ¿qué es esto? Es Los Ponca habían vivido junto al Niobrara, que significa agua corriente, como corriendo rápido, desde la década de 1730. Sus tumbas están en los acantilados sobre las aldeas. Los indios creían que los antepasados vivían en esos lugares. El apego de los nativos americanos era un lugar, era su patria espiritual. So, with that being said, here are a couple of images of the place. This, I think, might be either a painting or one of those photographs that got painted. So, those are the chalk bluffs. And here's modern pictures of it. See, there's some kayaks going on here. And here is a little more of a eagle's view. Pretty nice place. I can see why people really love it. So, with that being said, let's continue with this journey, okay? On the second dawn of 1879, you, a 50-year-old Ponca chief called Mashunahase, which means standing bear, only with a wagon and 2 old mules carrying the remains of your son, and 29 followers will begin a journey to the traditional Ponca burial grounds in Nebraska. En español, en el segundo amanecer de 1879, tú, un jefe Ponca de 50 años llamado Mashunahase, oso en pie, solo con una carreta y 2 viejas mulas, llevando los restos de tu hijo y 29 seguidores, comenzarán un viaje al tradicional cementerio de Ponca in Nebraska. Okay, let's continue. For this, I'm going to ask somebody to read it. So far, yeah, take anyone who wants to go for this one. Later on, I'll probably start naming, but just to make it easier. If not, English. Okay, Luis, you are going to English.
The American Indian
okay.
is of the soil, whether it be the regent of forests, plains, pueblos, or mesa. Was it mesa?
Mesas.
Okay. He fits into the landscape, for the hand that fashioned the continent also fashioned the man for his surroundings. He once grew as a natural. He once grew as naturally as the wild sunflowers. He belongs just as the buffalo belonged.
Thank you very much. Great. And before we discuss this quote, I'm going to ask somebody who can read in Spanish. Raise your hands if somebody speaks Spanish. I don't know how many might speak here.
I don't know if my mic's working. My mic actually working this time?
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, we can hear you, River.
Okay. El indio americano es del suelo, ya sea de la región de bosques, llanuras, pueblos o mesas. Él encaja en el paisaje porque la mano que formó el continente también formó al hombre para su entorno. Una vez creció con tanta naturalidad como los girasoles, oh, I got an arrow in front of me, silvestres, pertenece al igual que el búfalo.
Gracias. So what do you guys think about this quote? Luis, did you manage to put it on the chat, just in case? If not, still have it on the screen. So what do you guys think about this quote?
It's telling a legacy. What do they call those? It's not a folklore, whatever, how you pronounce it, but it's a legacy of the heritage. And it says that the American Indian is of the soil, whether it be, and it's talking about that song says, "This land is my land." Yeah, to me, that would go with that. And it talks about wherever it would be, he would have a part in that. And the way how do you say, the foreigners came over and pushed them aside to where they were from the first outline and took away their land. But that is where he belongs. Everything around there is a part of him, and he a part of it. And that's
Yes,
the
you're
first.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And we also had Alicia who put in the chat, sorry, it's hard for me to follow both. And pretty much this was from the previous quote. There's so much wisdom that comes from the experiences of the storms, of the darkness, and helps, grounds, and be grateful for brighter days. Yes. And Alicia, do you want to speak a little bit on this one?
Yeah, I also put in the chat, like, I feel like it's this wisdom that they're aware of, that you are one with the earth, that you are here just as nature is here, and you're all a part of that cycle. And I think it's really beautiful to really acknowledge that native knowledge and wisdom that sometimes we forget.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Alicia. And then we have Zelda.
Yeah, and I think this reading the second part makes the initial quote even more profound, because we know Chief Standing Bear is mourning the loss of his son, has been displaced, has lost so many members of his family, and yet is able to see beauty in the mystery of the storm. I think that just comes around to full circle and makes that quote even more profound to me.
Definitely.
You know what?
Anyone else wants to speak?
I'll wait, but I want to say something else.
Oh. Who else wanted to say something? Okay, Luis.
These are statements from this printout, but it's to me, it's referencing the way the younger people are today, or need to be even more so, because we people of color, we're used to being with the little, being, how do you say, huddled into a shack or a small surroundings. We're resilient. And, I was thinking about her losing her son, her only son, but I don't believe her as a woman who's come through struggles is boohooing. She's talking to her son, or giving, how do you say, positive response back to her son as he asked her to take him back to the, the original land where they are to be buried. So we are strong people. And as this is saying, this is my land. I mean, many of us was brought here, but look at the ones, the Native Americans that was already here and had their land taken from them. And then about Oklahoma and Arizona and parts of Texas and so on as Utah, so what was done. So this land is our land, but we're not going to get mad. We're just going to, I'm not going to say fight. We're going to stand. Yeah, we're going to fight in the right way, but we're going to stand. This land is our land. It was fashioned with us, by us, around us. I mean, we did it. We did it. I mean, you could go color by, ethnic by ethnic. Who invented what? That's it. I don't want to get on the.
Thank you, Luis. Yeah, just fire up. We got Luis fire up. And Luis, the other Luis, I always get it mixed up. Lois and Luis, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, obviously Miss Lois is definitely feeling the spirit, of what is being said here. Zelda added in the chat, this is why forced displacement is equivalent to genocide. And River agrees too. And it is really, important for us to understand the context of this story so far. We have Chief Standing Bear, leader of his tribe, trying to, ultimately honor his dying son's last wishes in the way of his ancestors. And what I really found beautiful about the way in which this is written is that it takes not only the metaphor of the way in which we are created, and turns it into something that speaks to how we're, created by the same creator. It also very deliberately says, that man fits into the landscape because he was fashioned to do so. He was made to do so. In other words, it's not just saying that we belong with the land. It means that we have a purpose within the land, at least for me. So there's a lot of things that are being said in this quote that go beyond just simply, this was our land and we have a right to it. It's about caretaking. It's about, really truly being able to thrive in the place that our creator meant for us to inhabit. So I think that that's a really important statement for us to get from this particular quote.
Yeah, definitely. Even though it sounds really nature and philosophical into a smooth level, because it's really well written, but it's really deep. It has a lot to do with basically the environment, how we always forget that we are nature, but we have turned into these outsiders, right? And in the process of colonization, we have decided that everybody is an outsider. And this also speaks of the placement of Indians. They were from a different place and they were sent like pieces of my chest into another place without thinking. Well, they actually thought of it. It was basically like Zelda saying, it was genocide planned. The United States did it before the Nazis, but that's another story for another day. And so it's about natives or any other people. It's evolving and we are growing in a place and we are part of that place because that place sustains us, gives us life, right? It provides for us. In the same way that Luis is saying, we also have to provide for the land, take care of it, right? But we will, further ado, we're gonna have to continue because otherwise we're gonna get super fired up.
Which
So
isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, it's the good stuff. Okay, so let's continue. It's been cold and with blizzards blasting through the flat lands with no trees to stop the chilling winds, with temperatures between 16 to 40 below zero. You and most of your people are not sufficiently equipped. Some wearing moccasins, some barefooted. Yet you had taken it upon yourselves to journey across Kansas and Nebraska on a dangerous journey, a 600-mile journey on foot. 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 steps. You had hear the crunching of the snow at every step. And this carries on 1 week, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, until 2 days distance to go. Starving, frostbitten, and exhausted, close to your beloved land. But the US cavalry has stopped you and arrested you and your people. So, espéreme tantito en español. I'm going to do it in Spanish, okay? Ha hecho frío y con ventiscas azotando las tierras planas sin árboles que detengan los vientos helados con temperaturas entre 16 y 40 grados bajo cero. Usted y la mayoría de su gente no están lo suficientemente equipados. Algunos usan mocasines y otros descalzos. Aún así, se habían propuesto viajar a través de Kansas y Nebraska en un viaje peligroso, un viaje de 600 millas a pie. Un paso, 2 pasos, 3 pasos, 4 pasos. Se puede escuchar el crujir de la nieve a cada paso. Y esto continúa por una semana, un mes, 2 meses, 3 meses, 4 meses. Solo faltan 2 días de distancia. Hambriento, helado y exhausto, cerca de tu amada tierra. Pero la caballería de los Estados Unidos te ha detenido y te ha arrestado a ti y a tu gente. Okay, so let's continue with the story. So keep it up. By order of General Philip Sheridan, a person known to think that the only good Indian is a dead Indian, you and your people are now detained. Nevertheless, the person entrusted to execute this order, General George Crook, is having a moral dilemma. He telegraphs asking what to do, but his supervisor, General Philip Sheridan, confirms the order, and in a quick reply, he tells General George Crook to bring the Indians back. We don't want any homesick Indian to get any idea that they can just leave the reservations and go home. General George Crook, most likely unable to sleep after being physically sickened and shocked after what he saw, 30 people who can barely walk. He looked at the women who were so severely frostbitten that clumps of their skin were hanging off of their elbows and their wrists like sacks of charred bacon. They stumbled, they fell down, and they got back up. General George Crook gets a hold of his horse and rides through the night to a secret meeting with the newspaper editor, Thomas Henry Timbles of the Omaha Daily Herald, who will blow the story wide open. This will result into a case where it will be decided if a person can be detained unlawfully, aka habeas corpus, and most importantly, if an Indian is a person. Are you a person? So en español, por orden del general Philip Sheridan, una persona conocida por pensar que el único indio bueno es un indio muerto. Tú y tu gente están ahora detenidos. Sin embargo, la persona encargada de ejecutar esta orden, el general George Crook, se enfrentará a un dilema moral. Él telegrafía preguntando qué hacer, pero su supervisor, el general Philip Sheridan, confirma la orden y en una rápida respuesta le dice al general George Crook que traiga a los indios de regreso. No queremos que ningún indio con nostalgia de la casa tenga la idea de que pueden simplemente dejar sus reservaciones e irse a casa. El general George Crook, probablemente incapaz de dormir después de sentirse físicamente enfermo y conmovido por lo que vio. 30 personas que apenas podían caminar. Miró a mujeres que estaban tan gravemente congeladas que mechones de piel les colgaba de los codos y de las muñecas como sacos de tocino carbonizado. Tropezaron, cayeron, se levantaron. el general George Crook agarra su caballo y cabalga durante la noche hasta reunirse, hasta una reunión en secreto con el editor del periódico Thomas Henry Tibbles del Omaha Daily Herald, quien exponerá la historia. Esto resulta en un caso en el que se decidirá si una persona puede ser detenida ilegalmente, también conocida como habeas corpus, y lo más importante, si un indio es una persona. ¿Eres tú una persona? So, let's continue. At the trial, ironically named Standing Bear versus Crook. Ironically, because General George Crook was in charge of bringing you and your people back, but instead had secretly set this whole thing in motion. The courtroom was crowded with fashionably dressed women. The clergy were there in force, as well as lawyers, everyone in Nebraska, and many from the big eastern cities. Most had never seen an Indian, and much less heard one talk. Now, standing before Judge Elmer Dundee, you, a strong, tall Indian, entered the room dressed as a chief, with a white belt of beads at the waist, a necklace of bear claws around the shoulders, a blanket of vivid red trimmed with blue stripes, a council blanket only worn when a Ponca speaks for his people. You are about to speak. For this part, one of you gonna put yourselves in the voice of Standing Bear. So I'm gonna choose, I think Zelda, you can take this one on. So with great respect, hopefully you can help us with this one, okay? And whenever you are ready.
Would you like me to read the whole
Yeah, the whole.
quote? Okay.
Yeah, please. And take your time.
Sure.
And go for it.
That hand is not the color of yours, but if I prick it, the blood will flow, and I shall feel pain. The blood is of the same color as yours. God made me, and I am a man. I never committed any crime. If I had, I would not stand here to make a defense. I would suffer the punishment and make no complaint. I seem to be standing on a high bank of a great river, with my wife and little girl at my side. I cannot cross the river, and impassable cliffs arise behind me. I hear the noise of great waters. I look and see a flood coming. The waters rise to our feet and then to our knees. My little girl stretches her hands towards me and says, "Save me." I stand where no member of my race ever stood before. There is no tradition to guide me. The chiefs who precede me knew nothing of the circumstances that surround me. I hear only my little girl say, "Save me." In despair, I look towards the cliffs behind me, and I seem to see a dim trail that may lead to a way of life, but no Indian has ever passed over that trail. It looks to be impassable. I make the attempt. I take my child by the hand, and my wife follows after me. Our hands and our feet are torn by the sharp rocks, and our trail is marked by our blood. At last, I see a rift in the rocks. A little way beyond, there are green prairies, the swift running water, the Niobrarach, pours down between the green hills. These are the graves of my fathers. There again, we will pitch our teepee and build our fires. I see the light of the world and of liberty just ahead. But in the center of the path, there stands a man. Behind him, I see soldiers in numbers like leaves of the trees. If that man gives me the permission, I may pass on to life and liberty. If he refuses, I must go back and sink beneath the flood. Standing Bear points at Judge Elmer Dundee. You are that man.
Thank you very much. Great. Thank you. So before we talk about it, we're going to go to the Spanish version of it. So en español. En el juicio, irónicamente llamado Oso en pie contra Crook. Irónicamente porque el general George Crook estaba a cargo de traerlos a ustedes y a su gente de regreso. Pero en lugar de eso, había puesto todo esto en marcha, en secreto. La sala del tribunal estaba llena de mujeres elegantemente vestidas. El clero estaba allí en gran número, así como abogados, todos de Nebraska y muchos de las grandes ciudades del este. La mayoría nunca había visto a un indio y mucho menos oído hablar a uno. Ahora, de pie, ante el juez Elmer Dundee, tú, un indio alto y fuerte, entra en la sala, vestido de jefe, con un cinturón blanco de cuentas en la cintura, un collar de garras de oso alrededor de los hombros, una manta de color rojo intenso, adornada con rayas azules, una manta de consejo, que solo se usa cuando un ponca habla por su pueblo. Está a punto de hablar. And for this one, I think, does anybody wants to read or should I put it to Luis?
I don't
En
mind.
español, por favor.
Claro que sí, hermano. Esa mano no es del color tuyo, pero si la pincho, la sangre correrá y sentiré dolor. La sangre es del mismo color que la tuya. Dios me hizo y soy un hombre. Nunca cometí ningún delito. Si lo hubiera hecho, no estaría aquí para defenderme. Sufriría el castigo y no presentaría ninguna queja. Me parece estar parado en la orilla alta de un gran río, con mi esposa y mi hija a mi lado. No puedo cruzar el río y detrás de mí surgen acantilados infranqueables. Oigo ruido de grandes aguas. Miro y veo venir una inundación. Las aguas suben hasta nuestros pies y luego hasta nuestras rodillas. Mi pequeña niña extiende sus manos hacia mí y dice, sálvame. Estoy donde ningún miembro de mi raza estuvo antes. No hay ninguna tradición que me guíe. Los jefes que me precedieron no sabían nada de las circunstancias que me rodean. Solo escucho a mi pequeña decir, sálvame. Desesperado, miro hacia los acantilados detrás de mí y me parece ver un sendero oscuro que puede conducir a una forma de vida. Pero ningún indio pasó jamás por ese camino. Parece intransitable. Hago el intento. Tomo a mi hija de la mano y mi esposa me sigue. Nuestras manos y nuestros pies están desgarrados por las afiladas rocas y nuestro rastro está marcado por nuestra sangre. Por fin veo una grieta en las rocas. Un poco más allá hay praderas verdes. Entre las verdes colinas se derrama la rápida agua del Nilo Brava. Allí están las tumbas de mis padres. Allí nuevamente montaremos nuestro tipi y encenderemos nuestras hogueras. Veo la luz del mundo y de la libertad justo delante. Pero en el centro del camino hay un hombre. Detrás de él veo soldados en número como las hojas de los árboles. Si ese hombre me da permiso, puedo pasar a la vida y a la libertad. Si se niega, debo regresar y hundirme bajo la inundación. Oso en pie apunta al juez Elmer Dundee. Tú eres ese hombre.
Thank you very much, Luis. Muchas gracias, Luis. And so we managed to get to this point. What do you guys think? ¿Qué piensan acerca de lo que ha dicho Oso en pie? Zelda?
Question. So on the shall we say government side, the US government representatives, there is General Sherman and there is Crook, which is an interesting name in its own right. If I understand correctly, Crook secretly called, he had this moral dilemma and he was just horrified by the suffering that he was seeing. So he arranged to have a journalist, George Crook. He arranged to have a journalist and kind of leak the story about what was going on, the genocide. But then he was brought to trial and named as a defendant. That's why I'm getting a bit confused.
Because he's the one in charge of taking them back. So by legally, he has to stand there and be the person who's saying, you had to come back to me, even though he set this whole thing in motion. He actually also contacted the best lawyers in that state.
That is really a terrible position to be in. And personally, I wonder if I would have had the courage to stand up for my beliefs.
Yes. And definitely this is the one of the things that I wanted to emphasize. And I always try to emphasize because we always get into the mode of, fuck, people, it's always making this earth a horrible place. It's always evil, right? But there's always heroes that we sometimes have to remember. Like Standing Bear is the main hero, but also General George Crook, who was supposed to do something because we always have to do our job, right? But do we? He definitely didn't take it. And he went beyond what any normal person would do and basically help Standing Bear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my question. I'm glad you answered. I wasn't going to ask it like that because I wasn't familiar with the names. But when he says that the soldiers behind him could make him go one way, and then you are the man that can make me go I stand between the two of you. Yeah. So I still don't know how to ask that question.
Yeah.
You clarified it for me.
The man he is aiming at the end is Judge Elmer Dundee, because he's the one in court who's going to decide.
Oh, so
if
he's
an Indian,
the man.
It's a person. Yes.
Okay,
he's the man he's referring to.
So when Bear says, you're the man, that's who he was talking about, and not Crook. Crook.
Oh, yeah, Crook is the one who's defending the case. Like
the lawyer.
Standing Bear is suing the government, saying, I am a person, because habeas corpus basically is nobody, no crime. So you had to tell somebody why they are being detained.
Right.
So that's the law they're going for. That's the law they're arguing. And so General Crook, because he's in paper, the one who has to defend basically the government, he is the one who's basically help him, but in reality, he helped him in reality, but on paper, he's the one who has to take Standing Bear back.
Right.
But the one who's deciding is the judge, Elmer Dundee, who in reality, he was a grizzled man, the one who really didn't like Indians, but they called him and he wasn't even home when this happened. He was hunting for bear and they had to call him. They had to take a trip and find him. And then they brought him in to do this whole case, right?
I have another question. These are facts of reality because these things have happened. But is this a true story about a family?
Yes. Standing Bear is a real person and his son died.
Then it hurts more because that's 600 miles. And I had a friend that was in the army and he had frozen feet. And when he came to our house to mow our lawn, he could feel a blade of grass. That's how sensitive his feet were. You know, they almost had to cut him off. So I can imagine, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to emphasize, how many steps you had to take every day for months. Because 600 miles, it's a lot. Without freeways, without cars, with muddy and frost floor. And some of them don't even have shoes. So I wanted to put you there. You guys, that's why I wanted somebody over you to read it as a standing bear, right? Because I want you to feel what that was like, right? Anybody else wants to ask any questions or comment on basically the speech that Standing Bear gave to the judge?
Well, I wanted to
¿Alguien
just
más?
one little thing that I think it was Zelda that brought up about, you know, there's different characters, right, in history, and sometimes a hero like Standing Bear is necessary, but a hero can only get so far with, you know, without the help of an ally. So allies are important. And, you know, even if we were to find ourselves in a position where, you know, we have that opportunity to even be an ally, that is still, you know, an act of bravery. And, you know, I think that General Crook, like, does deserve some respect and to be honored in his own right, because in the end it was the General Sheridan, the one who was actually in charge, who was putting all of these people through such terrible conditions, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in terms of like the story.
Yeah, there's always different characters in real life, right?
Yeah.
And I think we always get stuck on like either white people or army or so on, but it's not as black and white, because in reality there was a lot of white people also who were helping them throughout the way, and even tried to let them stay their home, right?
Yeah.
So it's always good to point that out so we know what to do in the future and know that we are not alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, ¿alguien más que quiera hablar acerca de esta cita? Okay. To me, I really love the way he put everything together. Once you start reading the story the way I'm putting it, he put it into one piece, from the land he wants to go back to the heart-feeling love that he had for his son and his culture, as well as the conflict that he's been facing, because he, in his lifetime, he saw the way his people live, like 6 different big changes, from sickness that the white brought, to changing homes, to being raided, to being changed to their new government, to then being moved to another place with no reason other than you have to because the government's telling you to. A place that is basically, you are part of the land. It's like saying, cut an arm, cut a leg, right? And keep on walking. And many people die on the way. So that, it's, to me, it's a way. He was a really good speaker. He was able to put all these into one speech that was really cohesive, felt warming. You know, you love this person and you can basically put yourself into it, even though you're not Native American. You know parts of these. There's a human spirit in here, right? So who wants to know? Oh, hold on, Stella.
I also, speaking of which, so when I was growing up, and actually particularly in the 80s, I don't know if anybody remembers that movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas, you know, Gordon Gekko, or you know, the whole, when Wall Street, the stock exchange started to really take off, there was this whole, it had been there all along, but it really, people started being very open about it. There was this notion of survival of the fittest. And there was this notion, you know, when I would have conversations with friends about the Trail of Tears, because this is what we're describing here, this very catastrophic event, you know, people's reaction was, well, you know, how could they be so wedded to the land? You know, there was progress, there was modernity. They needed to move to places where they could move to the city and make money and become civilized. And there was this whole concept of survival of the fittest. And I think these stories we're hearing have us understand just why it is genocidal to move people off their land when they identify with it. And we may be the ones who are not modern, who are not civilized, when we don't acknowledge the role that land or environment plays to human existence.
Yes, definitely. The Sumerians were an old culture who was conquering many other small cultures, and they developed a technique that was, we invade, we take people out of that place into another place, because a place is a place that you know all the corners, you know the allies, you know the animals, how to farm. If you take all that from a person, you're destroying them, not just as an individual, but as a culture. So this was a move that was made purposefully, which the government knew from the beginning. From the Louisiana Purchase, they knew this was going to happen. So I hate that. It's a lot of fire that comes from like knowing the way this was basically destroying and cultures, right? For what progress, right? But again, it's a whole story that you guys can follow. And to talk about the stories, well, who wants to see the ending of this story? Okay, let's go for it. Sorry. Here we go. 10 days afterwards, Judge Elmer Dundee handed down his decision. The question at hand is an Indian a person? Well, I simply looked at the dictionary. Webster's describes a person as a living soul, a self-conscious being. This is comprehensive enough. It will seem to include even an Indian. And with the judge's decision, a standing bearer was entitled to the protection of the law. The chief and his followers were set free. With his old wagon and the body of his dead child, Standing Bear went back to the hunting grounds of his fathers and buried the body with tribal honors at the white chalk bluffs overlooking the Missouri River. En español, 10 días después, el juez Elmer Dundee dictó su decisión. La pregunta que nos ocupa es, ¿un indio es una persona? Bueno, simplemente mire el diccionario. El Webster's describe a una persona como un alma viviente con un ser consciente de sí mismo. Esto es bastante completo. Parecería incluir incluso a un indio. Y con la decisión del juez, Oso en pie tuvo derechos a la protección de la ley. Y el jefe y sus seguidores fueron puestos en libertad. Con su vieja carroza y el cuerpo de su hijo muerto, Oso en pie regresó a los terrenos de casa de sus padres y enterró el cuerpo con honores tribales en los acantilados de tiza blanca que dominan el río Missouri. So, what do you guys think about the story now? Finally, we have a happy ending.
I think Chief Standing Bear's, I don't know where you got this story from, but the fact that Chief Standing Bear's presentation and speech was handed down to us, almost 200 years later, to me tells me that it must have made an impression on people. And I think our understanding of ourselves, of our history, when we are put on trial, so to speak, and asked to defend ourselves, our ability to respond is also very important. And that's why the ability to think about who we are as people, to have moments of self-reflection so we can say to the world, I am a person. I believe that's quite important.
Yes.
And I was listening to, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Noel Jones, a minister that comes on TV, and he was saying that we as a people is like the old quilts they used to make in the back in the day, different colors, different cuts, different textures, you know, and they're all sewn together to make one big blanket, one big quilt, you know, and that's the way we are. And so you stated a while ago, which was, you know, I'm always stealing material. No, I don't steal. I share. We're not in this alone.
Yes. And I think this is one of the big parts of this story. It's so memorable because it's not just, again, just one circumstance. It applies to many things. And he also states that none of his ancestors had gone through this. He knew in what position he was. And that's the difference between a leader and somebody who says they're the alpha, whatever. He knew his position, and that's the reason his son was being sent to the white people's school and to learn all this, because he knew this is the way that things were gonna go to. And that's the conflict of it. How much of it are you willing to give, right?
Wisdom.
And his son, in reality, his son is the one who pushed him to like put a little bit of a stop to it, right? Like, I want to, even though I lost my homeland, I want to be there, right? Because they tried to do the government's way, and clearly it didn't work. Or even after this, many other things had to happen, and we still in the process of making it right. You can say that. So this is definitely a story that speaks about the struggle, but also of taking charge of your destiny and to basically face whoever is going to be your judge. I like that, Zelda. They say, like, sometimes we are in trial, right? Like, we are put in the spot, and we have to, that's the reason we're here, to learn how to communicate. And the way he communicated was clear and loud and memorable, right?
And we can learn from each other's experiences, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's do something with this, right? I like the way Luis is saying, let's put this to work. Let's learn about it. Let's use it. So vamos a usar esto, ¿verdad? Como dice Luis, vamos a aprender, ¿verdad? So
Okay.
now we're going to do the exercise. Oh, before the exercise, let me put what the story comes from. This is a podcast called Constitutional. The episode's name is Ancestry. This is what I got it from. Esta historia proviene del podcast Constitucional, del episodio Ancestry. No sé si viene en español, pero pues más o menos, ahí si lo quieren ver. Y this is the link. I think, Luis, do you put the link? Yeah.
Yep.
And it basically was made with experts and so on, but also mainly comes from the book I Am a Man, Chief Standing Bear's Journey for Justice by Joe Starita. Y el libro en el que se basó esto se llama Soy un hombre, el viaje del jefe oso en pie por la justicia, escrito por Joe Starita. Y para los que no saben, aquí está el libro, y en la portada del libro está nuestro protagonista, el héroe de nuestra historia, Chief Standing Bear. Aquí está. Here is the person we're talking about. You can see the necklace that we're talking about. I don't know if they took this picture at the trial, but most likely yes. Who knows? Again, he was 50 years old when this happened. So let's add that up to the to the story, because I just see sometimes people walking and my knees are hurting, and he was 50 and did 600 miles on foot. Okay. Okay.
In other words, Abraham is saying no excuses.
Yes, man. We're built differently. Let's say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So with this in mind, let's do the class exercise. Describe the place you call home and love. Be descriptive. Describe the physical aspect of the place as well as the emotional aspect of it. So right now, that's what you guys doing. En español, describe el lugar que llamas hogar y amas. Sé descriptivo. Describe el aspecto físico del lugar, así como el aspecto emocional de mismo. Okay? So any questions? So if it is your home, your state, your country, you can go for that. So be descriptive. Just, again, details, nice words. Use them. Use your power there, as well as the emotional aspect of it, right? We just...
Are we putting the description in the chat?
Yes, but I say first do it in Word or another document and then put it entirely in the chat so we don't have pieces of everybody there. And even if you're ready, you can speak it out loud. If you're, I don't know, we'll give you 5 minutes, Luis, or 7. I don't know. We'll see.
Let's go with 5 minutes and see where we're at.
No pressure. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And again, doesn't have to be any like home. It can be your neighborhood. It can be your grandma's home, or what's home to you, right? Your state, your country, or so on, or planet Earth.
Mars in Abraham's case.
Yeah. Do you know that possibly we all Martians, just because apparently Mars could have had life, and then a meteor hit Mars, and then some of those parts might have flight to Earth. But that's a theory. I'm gonna say yes, because I mean, we're crazy, we're Martians.
Exactly. Yes.
Whenever I hear Venus, I always hear the commercial like, she's Venus, she's got it. Something like shampoo or something.
Yeah, I think
That always goes to my mind. Demasiada mercadotecnia.
Exactly. You're a victim of good marketing.
Yeah, it's good marketing with somebody says Venus and you're like,
baby, she's got it.
yes, right?
Salutes to the Venusians. So if it helps, as you think about what place you might call home, and or what location you might have a strong connection to, not to draw a lot from the way that the story talked about the original Ponca tribe homelands, but think about the cultural significance of a place for you. If it's a temple, if it's a place that is sacred because of what it represents culturally for you, that might help you. It could be something as simple as an altar. It could be, like a kitchen. It could be an actual house, but it could also be, a forest, a lake, the ocean. So there's a lot of different ways in which you could potentially approach this. And as you describe the place, describe it with as much detail as you can, and try to assign that value that you're placing on it as well. Como ves, les pongo un poco de música.
Algún lugar de un gran país para que se inspiren.
That's a good song too. I think I need you to stop sharing real quick while I do that.
We're gonna use the sharing, but we still have time for that. So
Yeah.
no worries.
Where is that song?
Again, think of the smells, the textures, the colors, what's there, and then who's there, why is it important, right? All these things will create these, because it's not just the physical, but it's the emotional we're trying to get. So sometimes maybe you guys painted the room together with their family, right? And made that connection to why it's so important. Or you guys planted a tree over there, or you bury somebody. You used to play basketball or someplace. I don't know, but be descriptive about it, right? It doesn't have to be pretty. You can have, pieces of gum on the floor, but that's not the point. It's being descriptive. Luis, I was also trying to find some type of poem about the Niobrara, but I couldn't. So if somebody finds it, send it to me. a home can also be kind of where your heart is, right? Maybe currently you're not in the place that you consider, oh, it's my home. You can go back to that other place, right? It makes sense. Again, doesn't have to be a physical building. It can be a state, a country, a neighborhood, your grandma's house, your ex's house. I don't know. I don't know when you want to go there. This is not that kind of trail of tears.
Pinche Abraham. They added, comfort is a place that is called home, and sweet as it is called heart.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually think it's very useful to highly personalize this one. You know, for anybody who is kind of struggling a little bit, like really look inside and try to determine for yourself what is home for you, like what actual location. Because if you're speaking from personal experience, I feel like it might make your homework that much easier to actually draw from.
That's weird. It's a level up. This homework is a level up. So I guess as an example, I'm gonna ask Luis. Hey Luis, can you speak a little bit of where you're living? Like what, maybe a renovation you've been doing and why?
A renovation? Sure.
Yeah, where you're living right now, just to put a little bit example there and kind of why, maybe about the office or the water leaks or something, you know?
Yeah, well, it started with definitely some mold growing in the office here. And, you know, part of the reason, obviously, for taking care of the mold was to, you know, take care of my personal health. Not only, you know, is it dangerous to be around black mold, but it's also, you know, necessary to have a space that is a place where you can work and be comfortable at the same time. And, you know, with those improvements that I've been making, you know, there's other improvements outdoors that I've been making, you know, really digging up soil and planting new plants in our garden and our backyard, building a planter box, and, you know, trying to just beautify the space to make it a place that's more comfortable, you know, a place that will be fragrant and full of flowers that are, you know, going to blossom every spring and every fall, and be a place where I can have our dogs, you know, really enjoy themselves in shade and in comfort without sharp edges hurting themselves, as Scout specifically, you know, gets crazy in her with her little zoomies that she gets.
There you go. And that's the details we're trying to get you to get, you know. He's talking about the edges, maybe this path that's rocks that he decided to you know, you put like a maybe river rocks so the dogs will not hurt themselves, you know, like those little details that talks about the physical aspect of it plus emotional, because he's thinking of his animals, right? His pets that he considers as family, right? And that creates kind of the aspect of describing something physically as well as something that's deep, right? Like something that's being the love of it, of sharing a home or environment, right? So have that in mind. And for that, Luis, I'm gonna share the homework before we run out of time. And let's start with the favorite part of the class, homework. Let me, where's the sharing part on this thing? Okay, here, I think. Okay. So now that you guys hopefully are almost there with the class exercise, let's go for the homework. Homework. What would you say to Judge Elmer Dundee to convince him to let you go back to the place you love? For this, you are going to put yourself in the feet or moccasins of Standing Bear, for you have been removed from the place you love onto an alien and hostile land. You are out of place. use the description of the place you wish to return to. Basically, the exercise to give us the speech or letter. You decide how you want to talk to the judge, right? To talk about the place you probably want to go back after being in a horrible place that you're being sent to. Okay. En tarea, ¿qué le dirás al juez Elmer Dundee para convencerlo de que te deje regresar al lugar que amas? Para ello, te pondrás en los pies del oso en pie, la redundancia, ¿verdad? Porque te han sacado del lugar que amas y movido a otra tierra extraña y hostil. Estás fuera de lugar. Utiliza la descripción del lugar al que deseas regresar. O sea, lo que acabamos de hacer, el ejercicio, utiliza partes de eso. Okay? So, any questions? And there's in the chat as well. We have questions, Zelda?
Yeah, so this homework, I don't remember you reading this. Is this the next thing we're going to do about home?
This is going to be the homework. So you don't have to do it right now.
Okay, I see. Okay.
So what we just did, it's
Mhm.
going to help you kind of give details. Like Standing Bear basically talking about the place he wants to go back to. I want you to, you can even title your poem to Judge Elmer Dundee if you want to, or something like that. So for these, you don't have to use a specific technique. I want to let you use all the weapons you want. It can be like a letter, thesis or whatever, but just try not to do too much, like at least 2 pages. I think that's the max, right, Luis? Just to keep it a little on the manageable size. But you can do poetry, you can make a speech, a song. It's up to you. But just remember, you're trying to tell the judge that you don't want to be in the place that you're being sent to. You want to go back to that home you love, the one that you just kind of started with, right? And so it's experiment with it, see what you come up with. Okay, anybody else have more questions? And again, it's also on the chat. Oh, somebody put something in the chat.
Yeah, we have actually a couple of different.
Okay,
in the chat.
I've lost them.
Yeah, we have one from River. River, would you like to read it for us?
Yes, please.
Sure. I'm not gonna know. Tierra vida adentro las rodillas, memorias del suelo, tierras altas, bocas de valles, abuelos, abuelas, tíos y tías viajaban. Caminos pasados cruzando el río, cerca pues lejos, los mías mismas, yo crío en tierras planas, pero los huesos recuerdan fango verdante, 300 años de cerros y colados, sangre de neblina, amanecidos celulares.
Excellent. Great stuff. Bien hecho. Ahí vamos. ¿Quién más, Luis? ¿Tiene algo ahí? Para que lo lea.
Zelda. Would you like to read it for us, Zelda?
So mine is quick, yes. Mine is a quick prose. It's kind of just stream of consciousness. I have many homes actually, based on the different chapters of my life. Over the weekend, I was reminiscing on one of the homes I miss the most, the cobblestone streets, stately stone residences hugging the broad winding river, filled with slow tugboats and elegant barks that ferry tourists up and down the waterway. There are clusters of neighborhoods in my hometown, layered upon each other over the millennia, historic corridors of creativity, war and bloodshed, passion and desperation, mysterious little alleys of stealth, stolen kisses, and hidden agenda. It's easy to cross my town at a brisk pace over 60 minutes. Sometimes I need an overcoat, most of the time I don't. I think what I miss the most are the chance encounters with lively conversations, the stories I make up about people I watch during coffee breaks, the street art, so much visual food and spontaneity. I miss getting lost accidentally on purpose in my hometown, that beautiful jewel tossed in the middle of a swath of green.
Excellent.
Excellent. Good stuff. You're almost there. Who else?
And let's see, we have Another quick little thing from Mojde. There's a place that is called home and a place that is called home. On my way to reach to home.
Oh, look at the repetition. Excellent. Like
And
it.
then we have Alicia. Would you like to read for us what you added in the chat?
Sure. Home is not to be confused with white walls that hold all your things in modern concrete buildings. I see them standing proud and tall, but no souls live in. No, home is hogar. It is mama cooking mole negro on the beaten up stove on Saturday mornings when she finally has a day off. It is the smell of Oaxaca and el chocolate that she blends in the olla de barro grandma brought her from el otro lado. And the espuma that claims my lips, a taste of home, country that whispers, don't forget me. Home is Papa blasting his Angeles Azules, Pimpinela y los Bukis, while he fixes the squeaky door with W40. Home is where my childhood dreams were on display on an altar of crystal trinkets, ballerina music box, and a wooden cross.
Yes, home is where the heart is. Excellent.
Yeah.
Then we have who else?
And we have one last addition here from Mojde. There is a place that is called home and a place that is called home. On my way home. And
Yes.
Gia wrote beautiful. Yeah, that was great.
Excellent, guys.
Yeah.
Well, we have set the bar really high. And again, if you guys want to hear the entire story of the podcast, go for it. It's really guided towards basically the law, a little constitutional, but it definitely has the story. Or you can have the book. Again, I have the book myself, which is still going. It's a little harder. It has more of the story. It's a book. It's entire. So it has way more. But definitely, it's good to learn about history, use it, and get some wisdom, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, I want to say before we sign off, again, thank you to Abraham for taking the lead on tonight's lesson. The homework is in the chat. It'll be obviously posted onto our Google Classroom tomorrow, along with the recording of today's lesson. For anybody joining in and still listening in on the live stream on Instagram Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, the opportunity to share your work with us is accessible through the Google Classroom. And if you wish to sign up for the class to get the full experience, just go to dstilarts.org/Conchas y Café zine. And also for anybody that is already prepared to start submitting work to the zine, you can do so at the same website, dstilarts.org/Conchas y Café zine. It is free to submit. It is primarily for people living in LA County, unless if you are fully registered. So again, take the time, make the effort, fully register through Google Classroom. And if you are outside of LA County, then guess what? You also get to submit. And if there's any questions or anything related to the handouts, anything like that, please feel free to let us know using Google Classroom. Next week, we will have a workshopping session. So the cohort assignments for those of you that are fully enrolled will be shared tomorrow, and that will be the group with whom you will be sharing your work. Again, to just kind of emphasize, to give us enough time to be able to read your work in advance and come prepared to provide you with notes, please make sure that you send your work to be reviewed by Friday night. Friday night at the latest still gives us the weekend and a couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, to be able to read your work and come prepared to provide feedback. But next week is a feedback session. And then the following week, 2 weeks from today, will be another lesson that will be actually kind of a fun little split lesson. For those who are in LA County, Abraham will be meeting you in Pasadena. He did share a link for you to get some free or low-cost tickets to a documentary about Siqueiros and one of the famous murals that we have in downtown LA, Placita Olvera, if I remember correctly. And for those of you who are not in LA County and won't be able to attend that documentary, I will be leading the virtual version of the lesson, which will be also similar to what Abraham will be discussing with those of you who attend the documentary. So yeah, it'll be on a Tuesday. That's correct. So 2 Tuesdays from today, I believe that's October 3rd. But next Tuesday is a workshopping session, which will be here through Zoom as usual, using breakout rooms. Abraham, do you have something to add or question?
Mike's all the way there. You pretty much cover most what I was gonna ask you to put on. And again, the documentary is gonna be viewed on Pasadena. It's kind of around Green Castle, which is kind of the square over there in Pasadena. Mm-hmm. And it's talking about the mural of Siqueiro that's in La Placita. And I think it's at 7 stars. So be ready, get your tickets. I don't know what's the deal with the tickets, but I already got mine. So catch you there.
Yeah, and it is a sliding scale fee tickets. So, you know, based on whatever you're able to afford, I believe you can still get tickets. But obviously, the sooner you do it, the more likely you are to get in.
So if I understand correctly, let me see. Have you posted a link about it, or are you going to send us a link about it?
Yeah, on Google Classroom, when you log in on the stream, you will see a post from Abraham with the link, and we'll repost it probably tomorrow. I'll try to repost it so that way, you know, it's at the top of the feed along with the, you know, work from today. There's the link there.
In the chat.
In the chat. Yeah.
I think. Hold on, let me open it just in case.
No, I think that's the one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So many emails, so it's a good thing I found it.
All right. So yeah, again, thank you everybody. And does anybody have any final questions? Anything else before we say goodnight? No. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Again, shout out to Abraham for a great lesson. For those of you that are still logged in, I'm going to launch a quick little survey here just to help us kind of, you know, continue to improve upon the
quiz.
Yeah. So, you know, take a quick second. It's a very short 7-question little quiz. You know, shouldn't take you that long.
Social security, ID, passwords, you know, small stuff.
You know. And yeah, for the purposes of the live stream and all of that, I'm gonna end the recording and the live stream. So those of you who joined in that way, thank you for joining in. And I look forward to seeing all of you who are fully enrolled again next week.
Do your homework. Do it.